much, Professor Karam, and peace be upon all of you. It is sometimes it's good to be a last speaker because everything have been already said, right? So I don't need to say much here. And also, I am the only speaker between you and the lunch. So that's why I have to keep it as precise. But Professor Karam, I want to appreciate your leadership to this panel, bringing that linkage between policymakers, religious actors, and practitioners, which is really so critical. I agree with everyone to send gratitude and thanks to the government of Kazakhstan and the wonderful job that we have seen here. So in the light of the global pandemic and challenges and challenging conflicts around the world, there has been a significant rise of acts of violence extremism, from ISIS affiliates in sub-Saharan Africa to far-right extremists in the United States, to clandestine terrorist affiliates who online platform to inspire radicalization by distant audiences, and everything in between. We have seen an increase in our destabilized global community embedded in conflict, and our communities living fear of violent attacks. So considering all of this global context, we cannot seek to address the challenges of violent extremism in a modern context while using tools and mechanisms of the past. While military and government engagement is critical, dialogue, cooperation, and social cohesion at the grassroots level is needed to prevent radicalization and eradicate terrorism. So we need innovative ideas, we need innovative leadership, and we need innovative partnership at all levels of society to be able to effectively address these challenges. We must look to change the normative strategy for countering and preventing violent extremism. To do this, we need to expand upon soft measures of countering violent extremism by further adopting a whole of society approach. Today, I will focus on the critical and influential role of religious communities in preventing and countering violent extremism. The president of Kazakhstan, in his address yesterday, he actually gave a new term to the critical role of religious and traditional actors. He said what? He said, they are the new security. I am quoting. That is President Katiyev yesterday said, religious actors and traditional leaders are the new security. So we know through experience and research that communities have great leverage to counter violent extremism. Civil society actors, such as religious and traditional leaders and actors, often hold legitimacy and influence among community members and have extensive knowledge on local community dynamics. Thus, in some cases, may be better positioned to implement policies and initiatives than authorities. Therefore, policymakers and religious actors alike must partner to address all aspects of extremism, from prevention to countering. However, new research from the European Union funded project that we have engaged in, there is a lack of understanding from policymakers as to the extent religious actors can be or are engaged in prevention or countering violent extremism efforts, and how they are approaching this topic. Similarly, some policymakers as well still view these actors as problematic institutions who utilize religious narrative as a catalyst for violence rather than for peace. So in realizing misunderstanding between these two groups exist, it is critical to create dialogue opportunities that support mutual understanding and trust. Once they build that relationship, both policymakers and religious actors, entities will come to recognize the mutual benefit of collaboration to prevent and counter violent extremism. We can point to several successful examples, and I want to mention practical examples here. Number one, in Kosovo, for instance, faith-based organizations were invited to assist in drafting and implementing the Kosovo strategy on prevention of violent extremism. In London, in the UK, faith actors were invited to contribute to citywide strategy entitled Countering Violent Extremism Program. In the United States, and I want to highlight a program that we engage in called Safe Space Initiative in the United States. It's a model that engages communities. It is community-led and community-driven program for CVE. And I'm going to jump quickly here to move forward to say that I would be remiss if I did not recognize the many religious actors face hesitancy to work with government institutions. While dialogue is a mechanism for these two entities to build relationship, there is also must be space within and among religious communities to bolster support in these efforts. While not the primary driver, religious ideology, a factor of violent extremism, religious actors need a safe space to discuss and confront narrative. So let me just quickly say that balanced contextual theology. What I mean by that, we wanted to have a contextual theology, a theology that is based on the context so that we can counter religious. We need the interpretation of the text based actually in that local context. So I want to conclude by saying we must also recognize the critical role of women and youth can play in the efforts to prevent and mitigate violent extremism. So prevention of violent strategies must include a gendered lens. Structures that exist are held back by institutional and social norms, which limits women and young women's contribution to effectively lead and practice and participate in preventing violence. This also includes the structure of faith-based institutions, including women as a key stakeholders in prevention, countering extremism. So youth also are essential actors in doing so as well. So we have to recognize all of that. Therefore, we need to ensure government and local leaders and civil society ensures youth not only have opportunities within the community, but are also actively engaged in leadership role and decision making. So in conclusion, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna conclude, very conclusion now, I am calling on organizations and entities here today to continue to develop innovative programming that builds on the capacity of religious communities. I am calling on you all today to advocate for community-based prevention programming. We have the opportunity to continue to create partnership between entities and religious communities to promote economic empowerment and social cohesion and emotional and physical well-being, so strive for community-based resistance to radicalization and to counter violent extremism once and for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.